Okay, we are back. It's another week. Here we are. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And this word great kind of bleeds into grateful.
For sure.
Next, a lot of people are already traveling to where they're trying to get to be with whoever they're going to be with for
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving. So I thought I wanted to start tonight off just talking a little bit about this unique time here in the United States we call Thanksgiving. Now, my research didn't take me to look at how many other countries may or may not celebrate Thanksgiving like we do. However, it's interesting that on this very day, November 19th, President Lincoln, and of course, President Lincoln, depending upon who you ask, is one of the greatest, or for some people, not necessarily. It depends on which side you fall on with the enslaved people
Mm.
argument. But nonetheless, on November 19th, he gave his very famous Gettysburg Address
Mm.
and talked about after all the fallout that had gone on during the Civil War. A lot of people don't know, but over 400,000 people lost their lives as a result of the Civil War. So it was probably America's bloodiest war, the Civil War. And some people would have us to believe that there are factions in our country trying to provoke another one. And so we have to be very cautious. And I bring that part up on purpose because people need to understand how serious a civil war is. You know, we talked a little bit about, I want to say in one of our episodes, Rwanda, and civil war almost destroyed that country altogether. And it was provocated by the Belgians, which is a whole nother argument. So usually civil war, and probably in our case too, usually civil war is something that is instigated by some outside force. Now, at
Mm.
the beginning of our country, we can probably imagine what forces were behind pushing for civil war, you know. So what forces might have wanted to see the new nation fail?
Mm.
Well, anyway, with all of that being said, Abraham Lincoln was trying to get the country to make the shift with his Gettysburg Address. And there was a woman actually whose name is slipping my mind at the moment. She had been pushing for a national Thanksgiving holiday for years, all the way back, if I'm not mistaken, from George Washington's day. And it wasn't until Lincoln came on the scene after the Civil War that he felt the time was right to try to bring the nation together.
Mm.
And Thanksgiving as a national holiday sort of came about because of that. Now, of course, back in school, we were taught that Thanksgiving emanated from the Pilgrims and them making contact with the Native Americans. And there may be some truth to that story, although there are many who believe that the original Thanksgiving taking place between the the people who came from Europe and the natives who were already here may have happened as early as the 1500s. But at any rate, maybe what makes Thanksgiving unique was that the premise of it, as commissioned by Abraham Lincoln, and it officially became law, I think, under Ulysses Grant, who, if I'm not mistaken, followed Lincoln as president. But the original intention of the holiday was about Thanksgiving and pulling the country together.
Mm.
So it's interesting all these years later that we we kept that part. We get together with family and friends, and it's the one time of year that we really kind of come around a particular central meal. You know, people have different traditions around Christmas and what we call Easter as far as how they gather with their family. And both Christmas and Easter, or as I like to call it, Resurrection weekend, those are religious in nature. Whereas Thanksgiving is really about people coming together with family and friends, a lot of people around the nation watching football. So it's a, and it's not a commercial. Now, of course, the commercial slant comes after the actual day, which Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Black Friday was a way for the capitalists to try to figure out how to penetrate this particular, because before Black Friday was introduced, it wasn't a commercial holiday at all.
Mm.
Of course, we know the whole Santa Claus tradition brought commercialization to the Christmas holiday, and then the Easter Bunny and all of that brings an element of commercialization to even Easter. So I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the things that a lot of people like about Thanksgiving is that if you remove the Black Friday element, it's one of those holidays that's really focused on family and people coming together, which was what Lincoln originally intended after the Civil War almost tore the country to shreds. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would be interesting to, and especially with today being November 19th when he gave his famous Gettysburg Address. So there you have it. So gratitude. What do you, as we're in this season now, Dre, what are some things that you're grateful for?
Things that I'm grateful for. Um, well, one thing I'm grateful that we've been able to, continue this show. Um, this has been something that I can look forward to every couple of weeks. This has been just very helpful for me. Um, I'm grateful for my family. Family's always, holding me down. And so many sides, not even just my immediate family. I was just up with my, my cousins in New York. They took care of me. Grateful for my employment. Being able to, provide for myself. Um, and I'm grateful for life in general, like the goods and the bad, ups and downs. I just try to focus on gratitude. Something I try to focus on in tough times. It's that's the thing that gets me through a lot of things. Just being grateful for the fact that you woke up and have something to be mad at, or something to be disappointed in. So that's what I'm. Some of the things I'm grateful for. How about you?
I like that. I like that. You said, the Winans sing a song. I think it's called "In the Morning." They sang that song with Anita Baker, and the premise of the song is that it'll be all over in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's the recurring line. And sometimes we can have cloudy days, and that's a part of life. Like Erica Campbell, I think she calls it her Ericaism. I don't know if you ever listened to her syndicated radio show. And she made a good point this morning. I happened to tune in, and I think I tuned in just to hear her message. And she was saying that, life will rock you in different directions. It's not summertime all year.
Right.
Winter is gonna come. Winter will come. And allergy season will come for those people who get allergies. It's coming. It's around the corner. If you just keep living, it's coming. So I guess, and and I guess maybe this is the time to talk about this because Dre, you realize that this is a challenging time for a lot of people. And we've all like I remember very fondly many Thanksgivings I had the opportunity to spend with my grandmothers, and they're gone. And so for people, this can be a challenging time. And so one of the first things that I I really hope that anybody that tunes in, and those people who tune in, we always say like and share, get with, get with somebody, you know. If the person that you normally would spend time with Thanksgiving, ultimately there may be somebody watching this who went through a divorce and they were in a traditional nuclear family this time last year.
Mm-hmm.
And now this Thanksgiving looks very different. So make it your business to get with somebody, and don't don't allow, I don't know what other word to use. Shyness may be a word for some people, pride for other people. Don't don't spend Thanksgiving alone if you've been accustomed to spending it with somebody. Don't spend it alone, because that's how you can that's how you can end up in that sunken place,
Yeah.
because then, right around the corner from Thanksgiving is, the other big time. So
Mm-hmm.
for somebody, I want you to make it your business. Maybe it's your coolest colleague, and you can just say to them, be straight up, hey, um, would it be okay? I know you guys are having dinner. Would it be okay for me to, you know, uh, come over and share with you guys, all things considered? Or maybe you have a cousin, like you mentioned your cousin. Maybe you have a cousin or an aunt. So I wanted to make sure that we didn't end the episode without saying that for those people, who
For sure.
are here.
For sure. I don't think you said what you were grateful for though.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Oh gosh, I've got so much to be grateful for. You know, uh, our economy, depending upon who you talk to, is in a tricky space.
Mm-hmm.
I'll frame it that way. I think most people will agree that there are things that are more expensive than we would like them to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely grateful to be in business for myself and, like you said, be able to see not only my needs met, but beyond that. So I'm thankful to Yahweh for that, because really I can't take credit for that, because sometimes when different opportunities and different doors open, I know that it wasn't just me, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my health. You know,
That's big.
I think about something my mentors say all the time. Cash can buy a lot of things, but it really can't buy your health. Now, it can pay for some doctor visits and all that kind of stuff, but it you can't you can't buy health. And
Right.
so one of the things that we also encourage people to do, which we kind of talked about, I think, in the last show, is doing your best to take care of your health. Making good decisions, um, and be grateful for the good health that you have. And I think sometimes, especially when you're young, and young is relative, right? Because compared to a 85-year-old, I'm young,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're young compared to me, so it's all relative. But when you're young, it's real easy to take health for granted until things start to hurt. And then you're like, wow, I didn't even know if you've ever had the privilege of having something hurt. you're thinking like, wow, I didn't even know I could hurt
Mm.
there.
Yeah.
Especially if you ever got a sports injury in a weird place. It's like, wow, I didn't even know I could feel hurt there.
Yeah. I got a whole bunch of shoulder pains. I'm like, I don't know where that came from. It's like
Yeah,
all of a
yeah,
sudden.
yeah, yeah. And um, sometimes you hear the weirdest things like I heard a lady say that I think she's from Korea,
Mm-hmm.
and she recently relocated here to the United States. She had been driving in her country and wanted to learn the rules and how the road is here in the United States. And so when she told people that she was thinking about taking some classes so she can learn American culture around driving, they told her, well, just, get you a car, and after you have a wreck or two, then, get what you really want. But you don't have to, you already got a license from your country. You don't really need to bother with classes. And so I tell people, be thankful for good advice and wise people around you. Because those friends of hers gave us some of the stupidest advice that you can get.
Yeah, I'm like,
Because because I know people who've been in accidents and it was a game changer for them.
yeah,
Hurt back and hurt this. So, if you got people in your life that can give you sound advice, be grateful for that because some people don't. Some people just get nonsense from the people around them. Some people they're trying to get like you express gratitude for your cousin. There's some people who they struggle with being around family members. So if you have family members that you can, feel good about being around, then be grateful. And then if you don't, then maybe you're the person, maybe you're the change agent for your family.
right. So, in terms of, I guess just thinking about gratitude, what are some of the things that you think that you've taken for granted?
Well, not without taking us to church per se. Some people will call this intuition. For me, it's more than intuition. It's you know because part of the idea of prayer, many different faith traditions teach us to pray, right? Well, what's prayer? Prayer is communicating with God. And so the whole idea is it's a conversation. If it's prayer, technically it's supposed to be a conversation. It's not a monologue. So a lot of times when we use that word prayer, people are thinking monologue. They're thinking about what they're saying to their higher power. But if it's prayer, it's a conversation. So one of the things that I hate that I've done more often than I would like is to not a not take the time to hear what is coming back. So it's one thing, and in some faith traditions, they have set times when they get together or they set aside to pray. As a Christian, under the New Testament, we don't necessarily particularly follow those those strict guidelines as far as a particular time of day, but it's more about having an attitude of prayer. So I hate the fact that uh, there have been times where I haven't really been still enough to hear the response. And then when I've heard the response, sometimes not listen.
Hmm.
So, it's one thing to listen when you feel like it suits your agenda, and then it's another thing to blow it off if you feel like it doesn't suit your agenda. And boy, there's been a price to pay for blowing it off. So I haven't liked that. And then in my faith tradition, there is a Sabbath, and the Sabbath is a day that you're supposed to set aside.
Mm,
Now, a lot of people don't know this, but and they Chick-fil-A is popular here in the South, but people who might tune in the North of the United States or some other country, they may not even know what Chick-fil-A is.
yeah.
But Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday, and that's because the owner wanted to honor the Sabbath, which for the most part, people in the United States celebrate the Sabbath on Sunday. So you have to imagine for a fast food establishment to close on Sunday, that's huge. That's a huge leap of faith.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can say that there have been times in the recent past that um, I haven't done a good job at that because today life is so fluid. Even if a person goes to worship on the Sabbath, many people do a whole lot of other things on that day also. So
Yeah.
it turns out not being a day of rest at all. It becomes another day of work.
Right. Extra day. I know
So
that's hard, especially as an entrepreneur. So gotta cram everything to the 6 days, and then yeah. So I know it's real hard to set those boundaries when everything's dependent on the work that you do. So
yeah, yeah. So I've got a question for you, Dre, because I was thinking about this in preparation for the show. And of course, we're always trying to bridge the gap across generations and then also dealing with the generation that we're in. When we talk about thankfulness in general, do you feel like if you compare people today to maybe 15 years ago, I'm not going to go 30 years back because that might be that might be too far.
mm.
So if we go back 15, when you think about thankfulness and people in general, do you feel like people are just as thankful, less thankful? What's your take on that?
So 15 years ago was 2010. Hmm. Are people more thankful today, or were they more thankful then? I would say I think it's hard to gauge exact thankfulness altogether, but I would say it feels like people have more of a platform to complain as opposed to show thanks for things. So I wouldn't. It like I said, it's hard to say whether somebody's thankful or grateful for something, but a lot of people just allow themselves to um, share what they're not thankful for. So when we see a lot of people, it can be a song, and people are just people will comment that they don't like the song. You'll see more people take time out of their day to say I don't like this, as opposed to saying, oh, I really appreciate that you did this. And now there's also like a term a lot of young kids use. They say glazing, like, oh, you're being you're giving too much props to this person. So I think showing gratitude to people, or showing thankfulness for someone who's important to you, is now, I think, ridiculed a little bit more than it was maybe back in the day.
And see, not to cut you off, see, you just taught me something. I had not heard that term.
Mhm.
And that term could play into some of what is going on because if there's a negative connotation attached to that, then that could explain why people might be a little more standoffish as far as showing gratitude. But go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, I think it's like, if you just thinking purely on social media, I think it's gotten to a point where when you express the things that you like, I think people may look too deep into it. It's like now people don't want to, like, people complain like, oh, I don't get likes on my stories anymore, or I don't, and that used to be a way of people feeling appreciated, or people showing appreciation. So now, um, I just hear people like, oh yeah, people don't like to show love anymore, share the things that they like anymore, or they gatekeep things. So I think that's kind of just the byproduct of how accessible things have gotten now. So it's no longer like you used to be able to find like rare things, but now it feels like everything is just overexposed. So nothing is really new. So it's like you may not want to share a song that you really like because people be like, oh, that came out last week or that came out last month, and now just because it came out a year ago doesn't mean that you can't like it today. But you say something about it now, and they're like, oh, that's, or you like a new like sneakers too. It's like, oh, you really like a sneaker that might have dropped last year, and they're like, why are you wearing old sneakers? So I just feel like that overexposure has kind of led to a lot of things being not as appreciated in current day. So I guess things definitely look different in terms of gratitude and appreciation.
Do you think that because of the metaverse and the fact that people feel like they can tap into an alternative reality, do you think that has a part to play in it? In other words, if because if you think about it this way, maybe 15 to 20 years ago, people may have been given lip service to gratitude because that was a part of what was necessary to get what they wanted at the time. Because, of course, we also know that some people who say the words thank you are not exactly thankful. They're saying what's necessary to get to step B, whatever step B is for
Mm-hmm.
them. But today, if people feel like they can get their needs met in the metaverse and they don't really need you, now we kind of touched on this a little bit in another show where even in the even in the dating game, a lot of people feel like they can they can get there. I mean, I've never been on OnlyFans, but I know of it, and there are people who are selling products. I think Sean, was it Sean that used
Yeah,
that term? What was that term?
digital prostitutes.
Like, I've been waiting to use that term again. So you've got those people on one side of it, and then you've got the people on the other side as the consumers. And I wonder if the people on the one side feeling like, okay, I really don't need any of these people that thought that I needed them because I can get my paper over here from OnlyFans. And so maybe you're getting a particular attitude from those people. And then on the consumer side, you might have those people who are saying, well, hey, I'm getting what I need by going here. So I don't really need these real people. I wonder if I wonder if that has a piece to play with it, Some people posting and they get a certain amount of gratitude of posting themselves, you know, at a restaurant or on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And the likes and the comments that they may get, good and bad, it just so. And I know you're the tech guy, so I was curious on how much you think the metaverse is playing into this whole gratitude picture.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think when you look at just the things that are subscription based, like if you're subscribing to, even if it's not OnlyFans, like they have subscriptions on Twitter, Twitch, Kick, all these places have subscriptions. And so, the kind of the idea that is if I'm providing entertainment for you, then, you should, tip me or, give me some type of monetary just for being here in order for you to consume this product or this content. And I mean, that's from their perspective, that's a great way to, you know, for you to show your support and, show your gratitude for them taking their time to create this content. Um, and I mean, a lot of people, I mean, everyone wants to be compensated for, the work that the work that they put in. Um, and so I think what you were saying with when people are getting that out of from like a content creator, they're getting their, because what happens is you can be subscribed and you're not necessarily subscribing to just that person, you're subscribing to that community. So you have a group of people, not necessarily just that one person who you're watching on stream, but you have everyone who's in the chat and or everyone who follows that YouTube page who you can interact with and you feel like they're like-minded individuals. And so that's more what a lot of people are paying for when it comes to, and they pay the creator to continue that community so they don't lose that community. Because if the creator isn't getting compensated, then they won't have the funds to do this 24/7, or they have to get another job and won't be able to stream as much. So that's kind of the relationship that the creator has with their subscribers. So both have their sense of gratitude, because now the streamer or the content creator has the ability to do this, provide this service full time, and the subscriber has the ability to have access to this community all the time.
I wonder if part of the issue, now, I never answered the question for myself. If I think 15 years ago, maybe people are not less grateful. I think that um, just based upon the dialogue that we're having, I think that people may have been more willing to appear grateful 15 years ago because there were less options. But now, thanks to so many more tools that people have access to, people are more willing to say, "Hey, I don't need you because I can do this over here. I can go over there." It's
Mm.
and even in business, a lot of time because people feel like they have access to the internet to just about anybody. Even in business, sometimes folks will feel like they can do whatever because at any given moment they can move on. Whereas in times past, now in some professions it's different. Some professions you're not going to have that. For example, one of my clients is a hairstylist,
Mm.
and she was telling me that, and I was aware of that with this profession, but she just confirmed it. She flies out of town to service clients, and clients fly into town to be serviced because that's hands on.
Mm.
And then, now, of course, you can always go online to find somebody, but usually there's certain professions, there's certain things that people do that folks are, are less willing to replace with just anybody.
Right.
And I've found that that's one profession that people, when they If they find you and they like you, they latch on. I think men are sort of like that with barbers as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe not on the same level as women and hairstylists, but I know guys who, they find a good barber, that's it. They're not messing with anybody else.
Yeah. I'm like that with my the lady who does my hair. She's once you find somebody good, and it's I don't even necessarily think it's strictly on the the talent. Is more of the rapport because you've talked to this person. You can had conversations with them. Their family and stuff like that. So I think it's when you do have real life people who you deal with, or whether it's a barber, hairstylist, anything like that. um it's you don't necessarily want to feel like you're abandoning them, or you're and you kind of show that's a way you show gratitude by continuing to come back, and that's
That's
why you
right.
get the good service. So yeah, I think yeah, continued patronage is I think that's I don't know if that's a
That's
word
the
exactly.
word. That's the
That's a
word.
word,
Yeah.
yeah. is
Yeah.
um is a way of showing gratitude to people for sure.
Now, one of the things that you taught me in the past, because I remember I had a situation and you had to walk me through it because some of the issue could be about communication, just like you taught me about the term glazing. Could it be that sometimes if I'm interacting with uh, a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha, that they may in fact be expressing gratitude, but I don't understand it because they're not expressing it with the word thank you per se,
Hmm.
but they're using other language, or they are behaving in a way that would should suggest to me that they're thankful. I mean, can you elaborate on that? Is that a is that a real thing that I'm talking about?
I'm sure. I'm trying to think if there would be like a term that they may use instead. Nothing comes to mind initially, but I mean, I see a lot of gratitude from Gen Z. Like I did, one of my friends had we put on like not a like a workshop, so for Georgia State students, and it was called Dinner by Design, and we had a couple of alumni, Georgia State alumni, come sit with the kids. They had dinner, and then led a workshop about professionalism. So talking, showing them how to create contact cards, and how to create lists in your phone, just things like that. We're talking about emailing people, things like that. So and they showed a lot of gratitude there. Like they came up to me, said thank you for talking with us, asked to stay in contact, things like that. So I mean, I felt the gratitude. I mean, I'm sure I got a couple, some thank you. People were saying thank you. People reached out to me after the event, and wrote me messages just saying, thanks for your advice and stuff. So yeah, I mean, they were great, and a lot of times it didn't. I think one thing with Gen Z, sometimes it may seem like they're not paying attention, but they're very perceptive. So it's like you can be talking directly to them, and they can they might be looking at their phone, but they heard everything you said, and they'll apply it as well. So I think seeing people apply the things that they learn is a point of gratitude as well, like instead of just hearing something and then forgetting about it completely. So I think when people take action, and Gen Z does take a lot of action when it comes to things like that. So yeah, I definitely don't feel like I haven't ran across too many unappreciative people in Gen Z myself personally.
Now, you said something that's really important because, of course, we're always trying to bridge the gap Now, when I was a teenager, the thing was that if somebody was talking to you, you focus on them talking to you. And so, because of that, if one isn't careful, they will interpret, like you said, someone in Gen Alpha or Gen Z, they may not be paying attention in the way that my generation was taught to pay attention.
Right.
But what you said is very important, that if we get the results, then the proof is in the pudding. And I guess that's, at the end of the day, that's important. That if now I'm gonna say it on the other side too, though. If a person's not appearing to pay attention and then they can't produce the goods afterwards, then that's problematic, because now I'm wondering if you were goofing off with your phone and now you weren't able to produce. So I've seen both sides of it. You
Mm.
know, I've seen people who didn't appear to be engaged and they were engaged. You know, they were able to produce, and then sometimes, and actually, this issue, because everybody has an opportunity to be distracted now.
Right.
From 83 to 13, everybody has an opportunity. So even now, you find people across the age spectrum who are capable of being distracted. Yeah. So it goes across the board. It's not just, and that's why I said I think the issue might be a generation thing rather than picking on one generational group within the generation. This time, the
Mm.
people of this time, and because of the technology that we have, it's just a whole nother level of potential for distractedness that had never existed before. So very interesting. Very interesting.
So, well, we right around 45 minutes. You had anything else you wanted to touch on, or?
Well, no, the only other thing that I wanted to say is, number one, I wish everybody that tunes in a great time, a festive time, a happy time with their family. And uh, I think everybody will get an opportunity to do something for somebody who might not be as well off as you may be, you know. And anybody in the United States is more well off than probably a high percentage of the world when you look at it from a pure wealth standpoint. So there's almost always somebody that somebody can be a blessing to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in this season, it's not just about, okay, pigging out, and most of us are gonna have a good time and eat the things that we enjoy. But within that gratitude, as humans, I think this is an important time to, in this season, express thankfulness to the Creator by taking a piece of what we have and sharing it with somebody who may not have as much. So I think that's important too. You know,
So,
it's important too. And for some people, they might go all the way. I've got a friend that makes it her business to go out and feed the homeless around this time of year.
mm.
Everybody has their own way. My thing is, whatever your way is, do that. because it's not a competition. It's not about me trying to one up the next person or be somebody else. No, in your own way, it might be just taking a slice of pie or maybe a whole pie to somebody who would like it, but don't have the extra resources to buy one. So everybody knows what they can do. And I think that's the bottom line. Everybody do what they can do.
Yep. Yeah, and piggyback off of that, yeah, you can help in very small ways around your neighborhood, in your community, at your job. Just try and go out of your way and do one helpful thing this season, and just giving help. That's something that you can be grateful for, that you have something to give, whether you donating some clothes, donating some canned food. There's plenty of especially at this time, there's plenty of opportunities that are will present themselves for you to give a helping hand in some way. And I think that will just make the holiday that much more special to you. So
Yeah, and then, like you said, Dre, and then I think there's a good point to wrap on. You might see a woman, and you have to use discernment. You don't want to freak her out or anything, but you might see a woman struggling with a box. You know, now here's an opportunity to lend a helping hand. Say, hey, I can help you with that box to your car. Now if you think that you offering that is going to get her shook, then don't take that opportunity. But
right.
but like you said, that's a good point. The extension doesn't necessarily mean that it always has to be monetary. It can be just whatever is necessary to help the next person, you know.
For sure.
Or for some people, it might be visiting you. Like I said, all my grandparents are gone.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be paying a visit to your grandparents. You know, that would be cool. Some people they they forget that when their grandparents were younger, their grandparents would see about them, even you know
And reaching out
drop
to
some
old
balls.
friends as well.
Yeah,
Friends who you
yeah,
haven't spoken to in a while, who maybe they haven't, maybe they are feeling funny about reaching out to you, or maybe they just have problems reaching out to people in general. So
yeah.
that can be something, and that can make their day, make their month. You never know what people are going through. So check on your strong friends, check on your friends who you have issues around these times. And there's nothing worse, they don't text you back or something. So don't feel any type of way. Just reach out to them real quick. Just say, yeah, you was on my mind, just wanted to check on you. And that can make a lot of people's day. So
That's right. That's right. Well, again, you have an awesome time with your family, and God willing, we'll come back in a couple of weeks. I'm grateful to echo what you said. I'm grateful for your consistency. And, as I said when I first started this, you are a standout in your generation, and I think that uh, you're a representative of what's best in your generation. But I also want to say this, because we also are aware of some things that are going on around the world. The young people of Tanzania, the Gen Zers, Alpha, they stood up to tyranny. And so we're seeing young people in different parts of the world that are standing up. And so, again, uh, some people might second guess folks in their 20s and 30s, but um, there's some places that would be on their way to hell if it wasn't for young people standing up. Tanzania is one of them. So I'm done.
for sure. Well, we wish everyone happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. Make sure you tell someone that you love them. We appreciate everyone who's watching. And please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Tell us in the comments what you're grateful for, and we will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all. Blessings.